So we're talking about rates this lesson. Have you ever been to a supermarket and then you go to buy some tomatoes, for example, and then you see that in tomatoes you can buy 5 tomatoes for 12 Hong Kong dollars. I'm going to work back in Hong Kong dollars because that's what we're used to. And so that is called a rate. Rate is a comparison between two different units. Yesterday we talked about ratios, that is comparing two items. So for example, comparing tomatoes and comparing apples and comparing number of pears or oranges. Those are comparing different number of items. But for rates, we are comparing different units. So for example, I can have number of items to the price, or I can even compare the price to the weight of the category. So for example, if I'm buying some beef, for example, we're going to measure that in grams. 500 grams, and how much is that going to cost? These are all rates. Okay, so rates. Whoops, let me change back to this. Rate is a comparison. Whoops, comparison of two items of different units. Items of different units. Different units. So, for example, if I'm talking about tomatoes for $12, that's going to be 5 tomatoes per $12. So that's a comparison. So tomatoes to $12. Okay, now this is a rate. Now there's something called equivalent rates. So for example, let's say that we're working with 5 tomatoes for $12 and you want to find out what is the cost for 15 tomatoes. So if we want to find a equivalent rate, so let's say we want to find the cost of 15 tomatoes. And so we can use fractions to do this in a very easy way. So if we have 5 tomatoes for $12 and we want to find the cost for 15 tomatoes at the top over here. And so how much is it going to cost? So first of all, from 5 to 15, we want to multiply 3 at the top. So 5 to 15 is going to be multiply 3. And so the bottom will also be the same. $12 multiply 3. And so what goes on in the bottom? 12 times 3 is $36. So it would cost $36 for 15 tomatoes. So that's how we would find, use these rates to find equivalent rates. We do it just like fractions. And so this is rates. We can have many different types of rates. We can compare speed is a rate. So different types of rates. So rates include, we can have speed, we can have cost of items, we can even have measurements, so size rates. Okay, so for example, materials per different type of things. So you can say, the amount of red material, how much is that going to cost? So most to do with cost, size, speed, and food. You can have a lot of rates in food recipes, and so on. So let's look at something else called a unit rate. Now we talked about rates. So what is a unit rate? Okay, so a unit rate is similar to a rate where it's a comparison between items of two different units. But unit rate has a denominator of 1. It has to be 1 unit. And so if we're looking at the 5 tomatoes, $12 for 5 tomatoes, and we're looking at how much is 1 tomato gonna cost, that's the rate for 1 tomato. And so to do this, we want to do 5 divided by 12. And so if we want a unit rate of the tomatoes, so let's say we want to find the unit rate of the tomato, we want to divide it by 12. Divide it by 5. There's 5 tomatoes, and it costs $12 for those 5. And so sometimes we have to use a little bit of common sense to find out, which one divided by what. And so if it's $12 for 5 tomatoes, how much is 1 tomato going to cost? Okay, so that's going to be $12 divided by 5, and we have to use long division for this. 5 goes into 12 2 times, that's 10, and so there's 2 remaining. Add that 0, that's going to be 5 goes into that 4 times, so that's $2.4. And so the unit rate for the tomato is going to be $2.4 per tomato. So instead, I should actually write it costs, my rate here, it should be $12 for 5 tomatoes instead of 5 tomatoes for $12. So let me just quickly rewrite that up here. It should be actually $12 for 5 tomatoes. So sorry for confusing. You might have to go back and change that. Let me just quickly change everything else over here. So 12 should be at the top and 5 should be at the bottom. So that's going to be $12 and then 5 tomatoes, and that's going to be 15 at the bottom. And so 5 times 15, and then that's going to be 36. So let me just quickly change that. I'm sorry for confusing all of you. I should have rewritten it better at the very beginning. So that's a unit rate. Unit rate is going to be finding the rates, but for one single unit. So we have an example over here. Example. So let's say a space station travels 15 miles in 3 seconds. And so we want to find the rate of travel per second. So we want to find out how fast it moves in 1 second. So if it's going to be 15 over 3, we're going to divide 15 by 3. That's 15 divided by 3. That is equivalent to 5 over 1. And so we can say that the space station moves at 5 miles per second. And we write it this way, 5 miles per /s like this. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to complete the following statements. So let's say that actually let's find the following. So find the following equivalent rates. Rates and rates. So this is the first part, find the following equivalent rates. So let's say we have 2 questions over here. We have 5 pounds for $10 is equivalent to 20 pounds for how much money? And then for B over here, I want you to complete that box inside. Let's say we have 35 miles, and it took you 6 hours to complete that. And so at the same rate, how far can you travel in 12 hours? So there's two questions over here. So you should complete this first. You would know that from 5 to 20, that's going to be times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So 10 times 4 is going to give you 40 at the bottom. So that's going to be $40 at the bottom in here. And then 6 to 12, that's going to be times 2. And so 35 miles times 2 is going to be 70 miles in the box over here. Now for the next part, we want to find the unit rates. And so for A, let's say that we can buy, let's say it cost $20 to buy 4 packs of pasta. And so you want to find the unit rate for the pasta, for 1 pack of pasta. And then for B, let me give myself some space. Okay, B, let's say a car travels 120 kilometers in 3 hours. And so we want to find the rate of travel, kilometers per hour. So for the first one, we want to do 20 divided by 4. 20 divided by 4, that's going to be equivalent to $5 per pack. So we're going to write down that's $5 per pack. So per pack. We can write it this way, $5 per pack. And then for the second one, a car travels 120 kilometers in 3 hours. And so how we're going to do that, 120 kilometers, we want to divide that by 3 hours. And so 120 divided by 3 is equivalent to 40 kilometers per hour. We write km/hour. So that's how we find the unit rates. Now, how do we use these unit rates? For the last example, we want to compare 2 rates to each other. So let's say 2 different grocery shopping grocery places have different rates. In one place, it gives you 6 bananas for $8, and then the second place gives you 10 bananas for $8. And so they're different rates, but we want to compare which one is cheaper. So let me write this down. So in a grocery store, in grocery store A, they offer 6 bananas for $8. And then grocery store B offers 8 bananas for, oh, let's change that up. Let's do, instead of 6, let's do 10 bananas for, and let's say this time it is $12. And so, which grocery store is cheaper? And so in this time, we want to find the unit rate for both of these items. You want to find the unit rate for store A and the unit rate for store B, and then you want to compare both of these rates. And so for store A, the unit rate is going to be 6 bananas for $8. So how much is 1 banana going to cost? We want to do $8 divided by 6 per banana. And so if we do it by long division, $8 divided by 6 this way, 6 goes into 8 one time, that's going to be 6, and then there's 2 remainder, add a 0, 6 goes into 20 how many times? 6 goes into it 3 times, that's 18, and there's 2 remainder, and you can see it's a recurring decimal, 1.33, and it repeats. And so for store A, the unit rate will be $1.33 per banana. And then let's look at store B. So for store B, they offer 10 bananas for $12. So it's 10 bananas for $12. So how much is one banana going to cost? So it's going to be $12 divided by 10 bananas. And we all know how to divide by 10. We just shift the decimal across. That is 1.2. And so it's going to cost $1.20 per banana. And now when we compare which one is cheaper, well, $1.20 is less than $1.33, which means that store B offers cheaper bananas. That's how we compare two different unit rates together. Okay, so now let's just give you the homework. So for homework, let me write it down over here. Your homework is going to be exercise 8.2, and the questions are going to be four, 6, 8, and then 11, 13, and then let's do 17 and 21. And then let us also do some problem solving questions. Let's do question 32 and one more, 35. So that is it for today. I will see you all next lesson.